Bismillahir-Rahmanir-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The topic which I want to cover in today's keynote is on Zakat in Changing World, Sharia Compliance in Contemporary Challenges. So within the time allocated, we will try to look at first of all, how we link Maqasidu Sharia and Zakat. We will also be looking at contemporary challenges in Zakat, followed by technological innovations, and we will look into some strategic recommendations, followed by the conclusion. Now, when it comes to Zakat, we all understand that Zakat is the third pillar of Islam. And it is not only a ibadat or worship activity, but it is also a muamalat activity. So often we hear that people saying zakat is something which is unique, which not only focuses on the spiritual aspect, but the societal aspect is also covered in it. However, zakat is something which is evolving, not because we don't understand the basic rules applied to it from the primary sources of Sharia, but because we have room for interpretation. For example, zakat collection is something which might be static at all times, but if we look at how zakat collection has been evolving in the world, we will see that there are different ways in which zakat collection has been evolving, in the sense that first it could be by sending people to physically collect cash from those who are eligible to pay zakat. However, if we look at right now, the zakat collection has evolved in the sense that people don't physically pay the money to zakat authorities. It could be done through online means. So zakat collection has evolved. Likewise, zakat disbursement has also changed over the years. For example, we understand that there are various asnaf categories mentioned in the Quran who are eligible to receive zakat. However, how much each asnaf category needs to be paid and how it should be paid, whether it's a lump sum or whether it should be a series of number of money given to them for programs, things like that, depends on how we interpret the asnaf category and how we interpret giving this money to asnaf. So therefore, we understand that zakat is something that is changing over time, and we have a duty to understand the challenges and find adequate solutions so that we can take zakat collection, zakat management, or zakat disbursement to the next level. So the key question that we'd like to answer today is, how can zakat remain relevant, Sharia compliant, and impactful? Because we can never ever say that zakat is an act of giving or act of collection from one who is eligible to pay, and then we are directing that money or dispersing that money to an individual who belongs to the categories of asnaf. It's more than that. We want to change or transform the lives of those who are receiving zakat. For instance, if we are paying, let's say, Maldivian rupiah 5,000 per year to an asnaf, do you think their life will change because of this one-time payment we are making? Imagine what they can do with this MVR 5,000. Would it be something impactful? Would it make a difference in their life? Not really. We all know that 5,000 is a very small, negligible amount when we want to create an impact in people's lives, right? So that's why we want to ensure that zakat should not be interpreted in societies as an act of giving. It should be translated as something that creates a transformative effect or impact on people's lives. So these are some of the fundamentals of zakat. So for example, it's the third pillar of Islam, and whoever is eligible to pay it, it is mandatory in our religion to pay it. However, the onus to pay it depends on the person who needs to pay it. So on the other hand, if we compare this with tax, tax has rules. There are certain ways in which it should be calculated, it should be paid. Everything will be governed by the laws of the country which is applied to tax. But if you don't have a legal framework for zakat in that particular jurisdiction, then you still have to follow the general norms which are applied in Quran, which we derive from Quran and Sunnah. Next is there are two types of zakat, zakatul mal, zakatul fitr. Since these are two fundamental, I'm not going to go into details. Next is about zakat administration. Now, when it comes to zakat administration, we don't always have a centralized system in all countries in the world. It depends on the country's zakat administration system. In some Muslim majority countries, it could be considered as a personal matter. In other countries, it could be considered as a centralized matter. So if you look at in the Maldivian context, we understand that zakat is a centralized matter, but it is not backed by any legislation. Here legislation, I'm referring to a legislation enacted by the parliament, but of course we do have some rules and regulations internally which is applied to zakat by the administrative authority. Previously, zakat was administered by the Ministry of Islamic Affairs, and now we have Maldives Zakat House. So even though we don't have a comprehensive legislation, we still have some rules which are applied to it. We also have fatwas which has been issued specifically for zakat purposes in the Maldives. I think the translation provided by the translated book provided by Maldives Zakat House today, which has been launched in the first part of inauguration, is a book that will tell you about these rules and regulations which were applying in the absence of a comprehensive legislation in the country. Now, next is when it comes to zakat statistics, we have a gap in that regard globally. So if you ask anyone, do you know how much zakat has been collected globally for a particular year? It is very hard to know how much exactly it is. But I think the job will be easier if you ask in the country's context. For example, in the Maldives, we saw a documentary where it has been mentioned that this is how much that has been collected for zakat on a certain year. So we believe that at global level, there is a gap in this regard, and we have a duty as a Muslim country to initiate at least some kind of a movement or some kind of association with those countries who are still dealing with zakat but doesn't have statistics. Maybe we can help them and compile these informations for the region first, and maybe we can go globally as well. There are institutions like Islamic Development Bank with whom we can have such collaborations. And when we look at the gaps in this regard, we understand that zakat has a huge potential because all over the world we have a large number of Muslims residing, and there must be people who are eligible to pay zakat, and if all of these who are eligible to pay zakat are paying zakat, definitely there will be a huge amount of zakat money that could be diverted to the asnafs category, and we would see a transformative effect if it is fully utilized. However, the potential is there, but the question is, have we untapped the potential? The answer is no, not yet. Now let's look at the link between maqasidu Shariah and zakat. Of course, from the slides, you can understand that for each and every category of maqasidu Shariah, we have an aspect that could be related to zakat. For example, if it is about protection of wealth, we are trying to purify and redistribute wealth fairly in societies. linking that to the general maqasidu Shariah. Now, what we understand from this slide is actually zakat is not about giving. We shouldn't interpret zakat as an act of one-time giving to a person. It is more than that. You can transform a person's lives if you give zakat in the right way, right? Now let's look at the main part of the keynote, that is the contemporary challenges in zakat. Now there are many contemporary challenges apart from what you see on the slides, but today's focus will be on these 5 areas. Number 1 is cryptocurrency and digital assets. So the questions that we should ask ourselves would be, is crypto wealth zakatable? How do we evaluate and deal with volatility and ownership clarity issues of this? Next is about offshore assets and hidden wealth. If people are hiding their wealth, how do we ensure that from those wealth which is hidden, if it is zakatable, how do we ensure that the people are paying zakat from those wealth? Next is about the gig economy and freelancing, including, I would say, even salaried staffs. If there is irregular income flows, how do we calculate the nisab and howl, and should they pay zakat? That's the most important question, because they don't have enough to pay zakat if we use the conventional classical standards. Next is financialization of assets, because today it's not only the fiat money or hard currency that we deal with. There are so many forms of creating wealth. For example, let's say you go to capital market, you invest in a share, or you buy unit trust, or you buy a sukuk or an Islamic bond, or you go to any type of derivative instruments. Do we still have to pay zakat from the returns you receive from these types of investments, or we don't have to pay? Next is about the transportation of zakat, because recently also, if you see the news, we've heard that from our zakat money which is collected locally, we want to contribute some of them to those who are living in Palestine. So the bigger question is, conventionally, if you look at the fatwas given, it is specifically stated that when you collect zakat locally, that zakat money should be distributed locally as well, provided that you have asnafs who are in need of that. So the bigger question is, okay, you have local asnafs versus the international asnafs. Which one should you prioritize? Do you have any discretion to say that, yes, of course, we have local asnafs, but at the same time, we have to prioritize international asnafs because their need is much more than what our people needs. So we need to come to a balanced kind of a solution to this and find out whether it is something doable or not. So first, we will be looking at the issue of cryptocurrency and digital asset. Now, when we look at the nature of cryptocurrency, it is different from the fiat money we use. However, even though it can be described as digital currencies issued by unknown parties in a decentralized, volatile manner, we can simplify it by saying that from a Sharia perspective, anything can be considered as money as long as the authority believes that it is money or acknowledges it as a form of money. For example, history proves that we have used, for example, animal skins as a form of money as well. It's not necessary to have special qualities or specific qualities to be it qualified as a money if we look at it from Sharia perspective. So there are certain characteristics that we check when we want to qualify cryptocurrencies and digital assets as money. And it seems that there is an ongoing Sharia debate about the permissibility of cryptocurrencies from Sharia perspective. Now, when we look at the different writings of contemporary scholars on it, we found that there are three views given by different Sharia scholars or fatwa issuing bodies on this. Number one is there is a view that all forms of cryptocurrencies are haram. Okay, so they say basically it is too volatile and it leads to uncertainty and speculation, and there is no intrinsic value, and there is no central backing to the currency, and there is a risk of fraud, gambling, and money laundering because originally it is being used for that purpose, and there is no stability in such currency. So these are the main reasons why they have said that it is haram. On the other hand, there are Sharia scholars and fatwa issuing bodies who say that it is halal. The reason why they say it is halal is they say that there should be certain conditions fulfilled in cryptocurrencies. For example, it should be backed by some real assets. Sometimes they say even in fiat currency there is volatility, and same type of volatility is tolerated in cryptocurrency as well. And already people have acknowledged it as a form of mal, something valuable, and people have started acknowledging and using it, and therefore it has become part and parcel of the uruf or customary practices. And they believe that if there is a regulatory authority in a particular jurisdiction which can acknowledge it as a currency, as a medium of exchange in a particular jurisdiction, and if that money can be used in a responsible manner without causing fitna in the society, then definitely cryptocurrency can be something which can be acceptable. So if you look at those fatwas or Sharia opinions issued by this group of scholars, you will know that their reasons can differ and their conditions can also differ. Okay, but in general, there are scholars who make it halal as well. Then the third category is those who didn't say whether it is halal or haram. They are not deciding at this moment whether it is halal or haram. They say that we need to do more research in order to come to a conclusion. Okay, so this category is, unfortunately, for example, we thought that IOFI, one of the leading standard setting bodies for Islamic finance, would be coming up with a fatwa on this because of the wide usage of such currency in the financial markets. Likewise, OIC Fiqh Academy, they are supposed to come up with a fatwa and they have deliberated, but they have been postponing a decision. So this simply means that this category of scholars, maybe they will decide it as halal, maybe they will decide it as haram, but we don't know yet. Now, when we look at how different countries are dealing with it, again, it differs, but what we see from the practice is that there are countries who are using cryptocurrency right now, and there are countries in which there are some authorities who are accepting zakat using cryptocurrencies, and there are some institutions who are paying zakat using cryptocurrencies as well. There are some examples which I have highlighted here. For example, in Indonesia, there is one finance company called Blossom Finance. So they allow zakat to be paid using cryptocurrencies. And then in Malaysia, already Lembaga Zakat Selangor has come up with a formula on how you can give zakat using cryptocurrencies. And then there's also fatwa issued where we understand that using, even if you hold cryptocurrency and if you meet the zakat requirement, you are supposed to pay zakat using cryptocurrency as well. So The conclusion we can derive from that is, of course, in the context of Maldives, we need Maldives Zakat House to guide us and give us the direction on whether we have to pay using cryptocurrencies, or whether we still have to pay zakat if we hold cryptocurrencies as a form of wealth. Next is offshore assets and hidden wealth. Now, it is understood from the statistics we see from different countries that it is a norm even among the Muslims to keep the wealth hidden in offshore accounts or tax havens. And this wealth is often unreported in the sense that in the onshore jurisdictions, they don't have to pay tax for this type of wealth, which is accumulated or hidden in other countries. Now, the challenges we face in this regard is, of course, number one is detection. For instance, Maldives Zakat House. How would they detect whether a person is hiding wealth in another country? Number two, who will disclose that? Would the person holding the wealth voluntarily come and say to Maldives Zakat House, I have this much wealth? There's no point of disclosing it, because if the person is paying on his or her own, then what's the point of disclosing, right? They can just pay it directly. Then accountability. Even if Maldives Zakat House knows that somebody is hiding wealth, what can they do about it? Can they go after the person? Not really. They don't have that type of powers, right? So, I mean, we are talking about even domestic wealth, and they don't have the power to go after an individual who is hiding wealth in the main domestic jurisdiction as well. So these are the main challenges we face. And from Sharia perspective, of course, we all know that wealth is an amana, which is a trust from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when zakat is due from that particular wealth you hold, the onus is on you to pay it. It is not the duty of a third party to come and enforce the zakatable obligations of you, unless in certain circumstances, of course. And concealing wealth is equivalent to breach of amana, and it undermines maqasidu sharia. So for me, if you ask me what is the solution for this problem, the most sensible solution would be education and awareness, because the person who's hiding wealth needs to know his duty towards the religion, towards the wealth he holds, and that's the only way we could make the person accountable, unless we take the other road whereby we will come up with full force, we will have the enforcing rights cross-border, all these things. If we can come up with, then definitely we can enforce it, but otherwise the best way is through education and awareness of those who are hiding their wealth. So the way forward in this regard, which I have mentioned in this slide, is stronger cross-border zakat cooperation. If you have all the zakat authorities who are collaborating in this regard, maybe they could find a way to deal with it. Use of fintech and blockchain for tracking assets. This is kind of impossible to do. It's good to put this on the slide, but when it comes to implementation of it, it is kind of impractical again. Develop global zakat governance standards. Maybe this would make people more aware about the assets in which they have to pay zakat, whether it is hidden, whether it is in a particular jurisdiction, doesn't matter. As long as you have wealth, you are a Muslim, you are eligible to pay, you still have to pay. Next is about the gig economy and freelancing. So obviously the issue here is these people who are belonging to this category, they receive irregular and unpredictable income. And the challenge is applying the nisab and hawl. Many workers earn below nisab individually, but collectively represents a larger pool. Now, when we look at the Sharia views in this regard, we understand that even for the salaried workers, if they are receiving monthly salary, and let's assume that within a month they spend and there is nothing left, or they have something left within that month which they didn't spend, which is carried forward to the next month. So in that case, how do you calculate the hawl and the nisab for salaried workers? So we have some Sharia scholars who say that once the salary is credited to your account, that is the point where you have to pay zakat. The hawl requirement is not there. And we also have, for example, during COVID-19, because of a special circumstance, there are scholars who said that you can even pay upfront zakat because there are so many asnafs, and in order to mitigate whatever the crisis which they are facing, we can collect zakat in advance as well. And the contemporary scholars have this view that zakat is obligatory on gig professional income earning people as well, because if we apply a classical standard of zakat calculation to them, wait until the end of hawl, then they might not have to pay zakat at all. So this is the fear we have, even though they are earning, because of the way how zakat is calculated for them, they might not have a zakatable asset at all. So what is the potential solution? One is monthly zakat contribution instead of waiting for hawl. The next one is coming up with a fintech zakat app, where in real time you can decide how much you need to pay for your zakat, and employer platform facilitation or voluntary deduction can also be done in a periodic manner rather than waiting for the hawl to finish. Next is about the financialization of assets. So nowadays people invest in a lot of different types of financial instruments. So among them can include ETF, stocks, derivatives. So obviously we understand that for derivatives, there is this ongoing Sharia debate whether it is halal or haram. But the general view is that for derivatives, you can invest, but only for hedging purposes. If it's for arbitrage, if it's for speculation, you can't invest in such assets. So how do you determine whether you are investing in derivative for hedging purposes? We have to look at your intention. If it's for a general risk which is arising from a business which you are conducting in order to mitigate such risk, if you are doing it, then we understand from your conduct that that particular transaction or that particular derivative instrument you are buying is for hedging purposes, not for speculation or arbitrage. But for ETFs, stocks, and even for the bonds, we do have Islamic alternatives. The first requirement whenever you want to pay zakat is you should pay zakat from halal wealth, right? So it is up to us to determine whether the instrument is halal or haram first. That is the first thing we have to do when it comes to financialization of asset. So for instance, if someone has invested in a conventional bond, do they have to pay zakat even though the return is huge? The answer is no, because it's a ribawi instrument, right? But on the other hand, if the person has invested in sukuk, Islamic bond, would they have to pay zakat from the return? Obviously yes, because it is a good or a halal asset from an Islamic perspective, that is zakatable. So after determining that, we have to go to the next stage, that is how the zakat calculation should be done. Now, if you look at different zakat authorities in the world, in this instance, I have taken the example of MUIS, Majlis Ugama Islam Singapore's guidelines on how to pay zakat on shares. So if you look at it, they are simplifying the calculation method. Even a layman could understand how we could pay zakat from a share, right? Now, in the case of mold, is how do we know how much to pay? This guidance is given by who? In your website, do you have it? Yeah. So if we refer to the website of Maldives Zakat House, they will give you guidance on how the zakat should be paid when it comes to these types of assets, because normally we don't have such knowledge. And it's very important to provide this knowledge, especially for youth who are engaging in such activities. Next is about the transportation of zakat. So obviously, we don't want any Muslims to be excluded from the zakat money we are collecting, because we believe that we are one ummah. So in that case, even though we have asnafs who need help from our locally collected zakat money, and if we believe that because of maslaha or for any reason we need to spend that money or transport that money to another country where Muslims are in need, then definitely we have to take that decision, right? But the question is, if we take such a decision, is it halal or haram, or is it something we can do or not? So again, this is where the Zakat authority comes into the picture. They need to provide us guidance. And we do have examples where this has been done, and very successfully we see the transformative effect or impact of giving zakat from one country to another country to help Muslims in need. So for this, I have included a case study which is very interesting. So this is a case study where we have transported zakat from Malaysia, one of the state, Perlis, to one of the county in Kenya, Kitui. Now what happened was there was a human crisis in Kitui, whereby they needed immediate assistance, and the humanitarian agencies, they were trying to get help and they failed numerous times, and finally they approached the Zakat authority and they asked for permission. So obviously there was a Sharia opinion required for this particular purpose, because the general norm is you have to use domestically collected zakat in that particular area, geographical location. So in this case, the permission was granted by the Mufti of the state, and then the zakat money was transported to Kitui. And what did they do with it? They didn't only give money to people. What they did was they even secured food using that money, and they also tried to provide clean water using the money. And the third thing is they provided seed called green gram and gave technological assistance to forecast whether they could harvest such things in that particular area, so that the people's lives would be uplifted. They come out of poverty and they are able to become zakat payers of tomorrow. So what happened was not only this was a successful project, but all the people who were given zakat money were able to become zakat payers. They became successful in growing crops, selling it. Even water kiosks were built so that they can get clean water, and people can also earn something by transporting water from one place to another for those who are in need. And if you look at the impact, the immediate impact that has been created because of this project, there is this quotation: in the past, our people, including women and children, would walk a 1.4 kilometers round trip to collect water in the nearest river, which was crocodile infested. A local village leader said, "I no longer have to worry if my children will come back alive if I send them to fetch water. During the drought, we were thirsty and hungry, but the crocodiles were hungrier." So imagine the impact that has been created. I mean, who can imagine? We have water and everything, alhamdulillah, and we don't realize how difficult it is to get even the basic things like water in those areas. So through zakat, they were able to even provide clean water opportunities and food security as well. And those who were receiving zakat in Kitui was able to give zakat in the next year to Garissa, which is a nearby county there. So they helped another county who faced similar issues because of the geographical circumstances in which they were. But if we look at this case, we should understand that there were strict rules laid by the Sharia opinion given by the Mufti of Perlis as well. Even though zakat money can be transported from one location to another location, that doesn't mean that we can breach all rules of zakat. Still, we have to give that money to asnafs. Okay, so the legal recipients mentioned in the Quran still needs to be maintained irrespective of where we are transporting zakat money to. Now let's look at the technological innovations in zakat. Now, in some of the researches we conducted, we had the opportunity to meet the real asnafs of zakat, and mostly we met ladies, single mothers, and one of the complaints they have been telling continuously is that whenever they need to receive zakat, they have to fill multiple forms. After they fill multiple forms, they are invited for interviews. When the interviews are conducted, there are various personal questions which are multiple times asked, and they feel like they are asking for something which they don't deserve, and in order to get something which they deserve, they have to they say that they have to reveal such information, sensitive informations which they don't want to reveal. Now, because of that, some of the women, they don't want to go to zakat authorities to ask for help even though they are in need, right? So technology can play a role in resolving this. How? Let's imagine a situation, we create a chatbot, and the chatbot is asking all the questions required in same tone without making any judgment. If in that case, obviously, the asnaf will feel more comfortable and the same information can be translated and a decision can be formed. So chatbots can be one of the ways in which we could help asnafs in this regard. And we have different types of technological innovations, for example, blockchain-based zakat tracking, AI-driven nisab calculators, integration with fintech and e-wallets, micro zakat collection, so on and so forth. And we have some general innovations that we see in different parts of the world. Have you heard of rice ATMs? Instead of giving money through an ATM, in this instance, they are providing rice to asnaf, right? So this is an innovation which is good because there are countries in which rice is used as a staple food and then they need this type of assistance to survive. Next is mobile apps. This is something which is very common and we all use. Zakat payment via payment gateway from website, artificial intelligence. Now, when we look at the innovations from countries, I'm taking the example of Malaysia here. For example, we have online banking systems which are established through which we can utilize them to pay zakat. Mobile applications are there, AI chatbots, digital zakat record systems, zakat payment through e-wallets as well. So this is the modus operandi of some of the innovative things we have. For example, rice ATM, the simple way is all asnafs are given a card and they can tap that card in the system and they can withdraw rice, but it's not like given to them any amount they want, they can't withdraw. There are certain terms and conditions attached to it. For example, in Indonesia, it is reported that they have placed these rice ATMs in the mosque. They could have placed it in any other part of the country, right? Why not in maybe a shop? But what they do is every Wednesday and some other day, they bring all these asnafs to the mosque and then they give lecture about a topic which they have to make them aware. After they finish the lecture, then only they will be queuing up in the mosque to get rice. And after that, they will take rice and go to their homes. So this way, it's not only providing rice to them, but providing knowledge, education, awareness, and we are also bringing them to mosques so that they become more closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and they become good people, hopefully. So next is iris ATMs. Now imagine a situation you don't have your national ID card. Can you open a bank account without your ID cards? No, right? So refugees, what happens to them? Do they have any ID cards when they go to another country and live? No, right? So how do they open a bank account? How do they deal with any type of financial transaction which is modern using a machine or whatsoever? Impossible, right? So for them, UN agency has come up with iris ATMs where the zakat assistance is being dispersed. So when they scan the iris, they are able to identify who they are, and the money is being dispersed to that particular asnaf using these machines. So when you don't have such records, this is an innovation which is very successfully being used. Next is delivery of zakat. So obviously when we say delivery of zakat, the first thing that will come to our minds would be physical delivery of zakat. But how many times per year can we deliver zakat physically if you have to do that? It's kind of impossible, right? Because we don't know where the asnafs will be geographically located. So in that case, instead of asnafs waiting to receive zakat, especially in those areas where they don't have banking facilities, we can use QR code systems, and through a shop or a post office or any type of institution which is located in that particular geographical location, even it could be an agent who is being trusted, they can use the zakat money, withdraw it, and then utilize it as it is even. So I think these types of innovations are important, especially depending on the geographical locations in which the asnafs are located. But in Maldives, alhamdulillah, we don't have to foresee such a situation because we have internet, we have banking facilities and everything. Next is about innovation, which I want to share with you. Now, normally, the modus operandi of receiving zakat would be a person will have to come forward and declare themselves as a poor or a needy, right? And then only the person's due diligence will be done and the amount will be credited to the bank account or whatsoever. Now, what if using IoT, Internet of Things? The Zakat Authority gives a smart gadget to all the asnafs who are eligible to receive zakat on the first time they register as an asnaf. So after that, when the smart gadget is taken to their homes, the Zakat Authority, of course, with their permission, can collect information about their household, in the sense that if the poverty level of that household is low, immediately Zakat Authority can deliver assistance to those homes based on the household poverty level, which is determined using this type of technology. So this way, we don't have to ask the asnafs to beg for zakat money, which obviously is something which they deserve and which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us to deliver to those who are in need. So I think using IoT, it's time for us to determine the household poverty level and give zakat to those who are in need without them asking for it. Next is about the crypto zakat platforms. Now, the reason why crypto zakat platforms are important is because sometimes people don't have faith in zakat institutions. They believe that zakat institutions are sitting on zakat money for very long time, and because of that, they just want to distribute zakat money on their own. So in order to mitigate such a risk, what we can do is, if we can come up with a crypto zakat platform, the payer can directly choose the asnafs who could be paid zakat, and there will be no backlogging of zakat money in the accounts of zakat authorities. So this way, people will have more confidence, transparency, because we can track how the zakat money is being used, what is the impact created using the system. So obviously, these type of technologies are very important because we are able to standardize the zakat administration process and provide confidence, and more people will utilize such platforms to transform lives of those asnafs who are in need. Now, what are the recommendations in this regard? First, update fiqh rulings through ijtihad and collective fatwas. Obviously, this is very important, especially for jurisdictions like Maldives, where we are 100% Muslim countries. We need to have a unified fiqh ruling on certain issues. Next is enhanced governance and cross-border cooperation. For example, today we have a Zakat authority from Kedah. Obviously, they have come up with so many innovations. We can learn from them, and we can also have a close collaboration with them so that we can standardize our Zakat practices as well. Develop digital Zakat infrastructure, apps, and fintech. But I think before we utilize any types of technology, we have to understand that technology is no magic. First, we will have to put in place our manual governance and everything in place so that when we use technology, we have something to leverage on. But sometimes when we talk about blockchain technology, artificial intelligence, IoT, we believe that those technologies are so good that wherever we apply, magically everything will change. But it doesn't happen that way. We should have first proper governance. First, we should enforce everything which is written in our rules and regulations, then only we can go to that level where we automate things for good. Next is increase awareness and literacy in modern Zakat obligations. So obviously different types of asset classes are emerging. So that's why more awareness needs to be created on those assets as well. It's not only using agricultural products or money, we have to pay Zakat, there are other classes as well. So this awareness should be important. Sometimes when we talk about awareness, we believe that this awareness session should be conducted for adults like us, but it's not the case. We have to even go to schools. Even the school students need to create such awareness. They should have such competitions where they have these challenging problems of resolving how modern assets are zakatable and things like that, so that when they grow up, they already know their obligations. And finally, join hands with humanitarian and collaboration agencies to reach the unreachable. Sometimes the biggest task any Zakat authority will face would be finding the most deserved recipients, right? I mean, how do you know how many faqirs are there? It's difficult, right? Unless the poor person comes and say, I am a faqir, we don't know. But is that how it should be? Shouldn't our resources be dedicated to finding the poor people as well and uplifting their lives? Isn't it too late when a person comes and declare themselves as a faqir? So I believe that time has come. We have to collaborate with many humanitarian agencies as much as possible, or even NGOs operating in our jurisdictions, so that we can find the most deserved recipients and give them what they deserve from Zakat, right? Like imagine a modern financial institution like an Islamic bank. Do they just wait until their customers come? Do they have marketing campaigns and things like that to find their customers? Of course. So why aren't we doing it? Why is that Islamic social financial institution stay in a air-conditioned office and wait until faqir, miskin come forward and say, I am eligible? So I think we should move away from that. Collaboration is the answer for that. So the conclusion is that, of course, Zakat remains timeless, but its application should or ought to evolve. And we see a lot of contemporary challenges in this regard. But these challenges are not actually the real challenges we face. We have the power to turn these challenges into opportunities. How? Very easy. Deliberate on it, make a fatwa, and make people more aware about such issues. So I believe that there is still room to apply innovation. However, we have to focus on governance issues as well, and we have to preserve the Sharia integrity when we do this. Then only we can move forward and show the transformative effect of Zakat to our populations. With this, thank you very much. Wassalamu alaikum.
Mia isabu maulua gulegotung audience ki faratun sual kurmuge fursatuluala.
We now invite questions from our audience.
Eves soalan obetto.
1, 2, 3.
Ate.
Thank you, Prof. Muneeza, for the wonderful presentation.
Most welcome.
So in the beginning, you mentioned that IDB has attempted to estimate the potential zakat versus actual in certain countries. Do you have a view if that covers countries like Maldives, or is there a methodology for estimating how much is the potential zakat in Maldives?
Not that I know of, Prof. Baharum. Do you have any knowledge about it? Maybe you can pass the mic to him. Easier when the experts are there.
Okay, thank you. Okay. In fact, we have actually attempted to calculate the potential actual zakat collection in the states within Malaysia, and we realized that the current collection is only at the range of 20 to 30%, the max. How do we calculate? Basically, we use the gross domestic product, and then we multiply by the percentage of the Muslim population, and then we multiply by the working level as well as the businesses. In most of the countries, if you see at the current rate of going, is basically the highest is still the income zakat, which contributes the highest. So if you look at the GDP, it can measure either on the expenditure way or the income method. So that's one of the method that is. In fact, we have started publishing some papers on that, and inshallah we will expand it on a global scale. So coming back, start working on Maldives GDP, then go back to the working population, as well as then you add up the ratio of the other stocks and flow of zakat collection, inshallah.
Thank you very much, Prof. Baharum.
Apologies, can I ask a follow-up question to that, Prof?
Sure. I give permission.
Wondering, like, when you say working population, does that mean employed population? Because labor force. So what about businessmen then?
So you have to give a different attention to the corporate tax or the corporate zakat, which you can also measure from the GDP part, apart from the rental and others, the business activities. So we can have a rough idea or rough estimation. I just would like to add, I would like to question also Prof. Aishath on the cryptocurrency, because there are two issues there. Recently, Wilayah, or the Pusat Zakat Wilayah, also came up with a new fatwa. So there is one, zakat on crypto asset, and there's the other, paying zakat using crypto asset. So far, if I'm not mistaken, there are only 2 states in Malaysia which have actually jumped on the bandwagon, because there is still many which are still not recognized.
Gray areas.
Yeah, even in Malaysia, it's actually only recognized as a mal, not a mode of payment or currency, which falls under the jurisdiction of central bank, and central bank has not approved anything so far. Sorry, Firas.
Yeah. So if you look at the Malaysian context, of course, the central bank didn't declare that cryptocurrencies can be considered as currency, but Securities Commission, which is equivalent to Capital Market Development Authority here, in the context of Maldives, have come up with a Shariah opinion saying that crypto assets can be considered as mal from Shariah perspective, provided that certain conditions are fulfilled. But when it comes to zakat authorities, as rightly mentioned by Prof. Baharum, we can pay zakat using cryptocurrencies, or when we deal with cryptocurrencies, we might have to pay zakat for the investments we have made for cryptocurrencies as well. So in Indonesia, they have already done that. In the UK also, they are doing it by some mosques. But we don't have a clear fatwa on that, which is universally accepted still. Any more questions?